Okay, looking at the investments update for Davis, that has been quite involved, but I think this is interesting. Let me share my screen. Apologies, my computer's running really slow today. Okay, so what we've been looking at, and I think it's quite important, is Spanish market. I can go into the details, but it's not growing as fast except certain areas. Okay, this is the Comunidad de Madrid has been growing more than Barcelona for sure, than Catalonia for sure. And you can see here Comunidad Valenciana, Venta, okay, it's a little bit slow, but let me just run you through this. Valencia, no, Nemud, no, Valencia. Okay, consultar informe. It's important to look at this, the pricing. It doesn't mean that it's going to continue increasing in price. I think this is very important to analyze. Okay, it doesn't mean the things have gone up. Doesn't mean that they're going to go up. Actually, there's a point where, that could be precisely the moment that it goes down. But Valencia and Madrid have been going up in price. Okay, you see here it's an increase in price of 10% or 13. Well, it says 13% here, but I would say from this point upwards is around 30% increase. In Madrid, similar. Catalonia, no. Barcelona, no. Actually, it's an aggregate. Okay, probably the economic situation in Madrid and Valencia are pushing stronger, and value of property doesn't seem to be growing. I think this is interesting. Rent, yes, in every area it's growing. Okay, that means it's good and it's bad. It's good because it's been growing, so it's peak, but at the same time, I think it's reached its limit. You can't estimate that rent will continue to go up, except for tourists. And then you have the addition that regulation in Spain can hit you anytime. There's a bunch of local governments regulating, putting top limits to how much you can rent. So then even to tourists, or not to tourists, to foreigners, sorry, you couldn't rent at a high price, because maybe if you get an apartment in an amazing location, for example, Castelldefels facing the sea, doesn't matter. They're still going to pay X amount of euros every year because they're very happy because they're next to the sea, and for them it's peanuts compared to the cost of living in Germany and London and Amsterdam. Okay, so I think that's a key factor. And if the return comes from rent, the tourist areas are absolutely or not tourist, sorry, foreigner valued areas like beach, like Poplano, obviously, but at the same time, Popla Sec can be absolutely key because it gives access to what people want, the beach, and the reality of this area. In Madrid, it's a little bit different because Madrid has a lot of Latin American companies setting up and everything. It can be very interesting, but we don't really have access, and we don't have. I have some friends, and I'll mention afterwards what are potential plans for the next 2 weeks around that to investigate a little bit more in detail. Okay, but it's a lot of effort. So this is the big thing, and if we compare to putting the money in the savings accounts that right now in the US or in parts of Asia, they give you 4.4%, 5% or like that, or index funds across the world that historically have given you 8, 9, 10%. This is we need to evaluate, because one thing is an investment, another thing is a purchase. You say, no, I just want to have a piece of property here because that's what I want. That's what I choose to put that's very different. You still make money. Big difference with an iPhone. An iPhone, you spend money on it, but you don't make money on it. This you could. Okay, so I think it's interesting. And then what we've been looking at, so a little bit the focus has been Barcelona and signs or up and coming areas that were meant to be gentrified. I think there's a risk there. I think there's a risk that the gentrification doesn't happen, especially when I look at Catalonia and I look at Barcelona not growing. It doesn't matter. I can show you the prices, but just believe me, just because this tool just takes a little bit too long to load. Okay, but there hasn't been an increase, and there's a risk that doesn't happen, that increase. And so I think that there's a lot of work for a very low return on the capital, on the yield of the property increasing. And then rent is lower on average than other markets. Okay. Let me a second. I know what I did this. So let me show this. Okay. I don't know why this. Okay, get out of the way. Okay, because I want to show you this, that the rent in general is not really good. It should be at 7-8%. To make sense, maybe 6%, 3.5 in general, or 4.7, depends on the property. obviously, but here you have the yield. Okay, I'll explain. And I need to do actually all the exercise a little bit more in detail, but it's smaller properties do get a much better. And so when you see this, you'll generally see smaller properties get better. The bigger the property, the harder it is. Okay, unless, and this is the business that we wanted to set up with a friend of mine, and is the co-living spaces where you're actually renting rooms and you're that can be, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of freaking work, and especially for one apartment. But this could be the demo apartment to then build up, get investors and build at scale. Okay, but this is not. So the key point is, I'm going a little bit long here, that the property market in Spain by itself doesn't seem to make sense, and because there's not enough growth, and especially because you get taxed. Okay, and you need to work around 11% upfront. For example, this is very important. 11% of, depending on the community, so in the area, but 11% of what you buy, immediately you're paying. So you're losing 11% of what you bought. So if you got a much cheaper property, great. If you didn't, that's different. And then in this cases, most of the properties we're looking at, you need to rebuild. So the key is how fast can you rebuild. And generally, apartments that have been already rebuilt are in the higher end. There's very little money to be made, and if the property is not going to grow, and what's the point of buying it? And because you have very little area of growth, there has been a year-on-year 13% growth in Valencia and in Madrid, or above 10% in the prices. But potentially, there's no guarantee of that sustaining. But well, it's still there. I think, and I think in that case, Valencia is more attractive because of the lower price points. Okay, but what I wanted to bring out now is that we have 4 properties. Okay, that I've been looking at. I've filtered most of the ones that didn't go through, and the key factor here is the price per square footage, per square meter. Okay, here there's 4 properties. You have the rank here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. The square footage is good. I think in that sense, and the key thing here is, okay, as you can see here, it's a new, well, actually I click here and it's basically this one here. It's an old property with an old tenant. We need to pay the old tenant to leave. Okay, so it makes it more expensive. As you see, there's a lot of rebuilding having to happen here. Okay, so the key thing here is going to be, as you can see here, sorry, my computer is just really slow today. Papa, okay, our father and Urens and the construction guy are gonna go check the apartments and see if the rebuild makes sense. What would be the cost? Because this is essential. If the rebuild, as you can see here, it is so annoying. If the rebuild and goes into the higher ranges, okay, here for example, rebuild I put high, you go down, you lose quite a bit of money. You go from average, okay, making 13.39% to making 5.73. So you're spending 570,000 euros, all the headaches of rebuilding, of being on top of all these problems, of all the possibilities that actually the rebuild, hey, we just found that there's this problem with this tube and we actually need to spend all this extra money, or the lighting, or the electricity. It's a much bigger risk than investing in stock, even though stock sounds very risky, but no, there's as much in 570,000, and you only get 30,000 euros. Doesn't make sense. Okay, and because we're talking about selling it and the margin you make with selling it. Obviously, if you don't sell, you pay less taxes, and but well, then you just have the property there. Okay, it depends what you want. Okay, but the idea is, what I'm talking about is on the investment side. Okay, we wanted to do a lot of turnaround, and there's a bit of risk there. Okay, so going into that, okay, there's 3 properties we're going to be looking at, and next week, the first, so sorry, now I'm like going to the schedule. Okay, this week we will, Dad is going, and Urens are going to see them. Okay, afterwards maybe we need to close it, and you're coming here, David, and we might need to take action fast. Okay, we might need to move the money in fast, and depends on what we see. Depends if it's really valuable. Okay, I can send you the details, But I think this is kind of information of saying, hey, what the key factor here and what we're looking at is this: the value of the property is much lower than the average in that area. That means that you have, if you're paying 54% of the price in the market, absolutely great. Well, actually, it's not this because we need to pay the additional money, for example. Okay, okay, equal. Ooh, what is happening here? It's so slow today. Okay, 64%. You see all this? You know what I mean? You have a 39%, 64%. You have 36% gap. Okay, even if you pay 11%, you're supposed to make money. Yeah, but you need to rebuild. Then we need to look at the rebuild. It's true that I've seen some rebuild apartments that are incredibly high price. Okay, and I think the high end market, and that's a little bit the focus here. The high end market is going to always pay off. Okay, it's you have more risk in terms of putting cash in, but it's always going to pay off because there's always people that have the ability to pay. In Barcelona as a hot city, that is my change of mindset compared to Sants and to all this area. I think maybe Pobla Sec, but it's not Eixample. We need to go to bigger to properties that can be sold as not luxury but high end, because this makes a very big difference in terms of what people want. And this is key. There's always going to be a buyer. Spanish buyers. I looked at some data from the Lista, some specific data that they gave me because I worked with them on a demo, and it just clearly Spanish citizens can't pay for this anymore. So it has to be all about the foreigners. And Madrid is an attractive market, but we don't know it. It's a more attractive market, but we don't know it that well. Valencia has its possibilities. That's what I mentioned afterwards. And so let's think about it. Okay, but we need to be ready. Okay, to cash out. The immediate cash out. Okay, is this amounts of money that we're talking about. But then you need to add the taxes. You need to so that's around 11% additional to all this. And so, for example, this one that looks great. That's going to be already almost 290K. It's how do we do this? Okay, just wanted to inform you and keep you updated. We will be talking when we're in Barcelona all together, but things are moving fast. And if we're going to take the opportunity, and I think we need to be very cautious about it, and we need to move. We will need to move, and that's what happens in life. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.